Okay.
Go ahead, Darren.
Sorry, thank you. Good morning, good day, and good evening, and welcome to another exciting webinar brought to you by Vivint Cloud Builders and Data Center Automation Special Interest Group. Today's topic is managing compliance and risk with data center automation. I am the SIG's fearless leader, Darren Blumenthal, and myself and my co-leader, Megan Glick, invite you all to join the Special Interest Group if you have not yet become a member. And welcome from us both to today's webinar. Today's speakers will be myself, Darren Blumenthal, working for Accenture, 20 years in the industry, and an avid fan of data center automation. We have Megan Glick, product marketing manager for Micro Focus around the data center automation suite, and special guest today, Joe DeBelpierre, product manager at Micro Focus, and he will be doing a demo for us on the product suite. There's some rules and housekeeping. This session is live and being recorded. If you do not want to be recorded, then unfortunately it's being recorded. Recordings are available to all Vivint members, and to enlarge your presentation, click on the rectangle in the upper right-hand corner of the presentation pane. For any questions that you have during this webinar, please type questions in the Q&A pane and then click on the Ask. Choose the language which you'd like to ask questions, and we'll get to your questions as they come, or we'll park them off till the end and be able to answer them at the end if we have some time. So without further ado, I would like to hand you over to Megan Glick and Joe for today's webinar.
Thanks, Darren. Like Darren said, I am a product marketing manager on the Data Center Automation Suite. Today I want to start off by doing kind of a quick level set and recap of the webinar we did back in August, in case any of you were not able to attend that or catch the on-demand recording. We just kind of did an update on how we offer our products and solutions and deliver them. So getting right into it, back in the beginning of 2016, we announced kind of this new suite strategy where we went from offering about 41 different point products in our portfolio to a more strategic, narrow focus of, well, then 4 suites, but now we've expanded to 6 suites. We just really kind of saw, issues with integration across all these different products and doing upgrades on a timely manner, and decided it would be better to kind of fold the technologies into strategic solutions for our customers to consume. So this special interest group obviously covers both data center automation highlighted on the screen and also hybrid cloud management there, the second box from the left. But today's focus will be compliance, obviously, via data center automation. Like I mentioned, we did a webinar in August that covered both of these suites. If you have an interest in learning more about what products we folded into them and their capabilities and features, you can definitely check out that webinar recording, and we can share that out after today. So looking at data center automation, on the left there you see kind of the prominent previous products that we are folding into the data center automation suite: server automation, operations orchestration, database and middleware automation, and IT operations compliance. So those core technologies are really what drive data center automation. Obviously, as we continue to evolve data center automation, we want to point out that we are not abandoning any of the products on the left should you have them in your environment. We continue to update releases and continue to support them. The key benefit, though, on data center automation is the net new capabilities and functionalities that we're adding are only going to be available on that suite level. So, for example, in actually last month, in November, we did a release and started offering Puppet visibility. So things like that are going to be rolled out via the suite rather than the point products. But, continue using those, and we hope to kind of move you over as you're ready to the new platform. So just taking a quick glance at data center automation again, we have 3 core capabilities: provisioning, patching, and compliance, and we provide those across the entire data center, from bare metal and virtual servers to database and middleware. And now, actually, with the latest release, we introduced container server farm automation and provisioning. So today's focus will really be that compliance use case. We'll drill down into how we provide that across the data center, what those features are. Again, we have that webinar from August if you want to look at the other use cases in a little bit more depth as well. April of this year, we also rolled out the new Container Deployment Foundation, which we're super excited about. Super cutting edge, and it's the way we're going to start delivering our solutions moving forward. So you can see on the screen here, I have patching and compliance highlighted. Those are the 2 core use cases that we're delivering today on the CDF, what we call the Container Deployment Foundation. Sorry about the acronyms. But within the next year and a half, we plan to offer all those microservices via the CDF. And what that means for you is really simple installation and upgrades. No longer these forklift upgrades where you have to, take months and months at a time to plan and move over to the new platform or upgrade technology. You roll it out via containers, and really there's zero downtime. In addition, it allows our suites to actually integrate much easier. So if you're using multiple Micro Focus technologies, much simpler to move from system to system. You can also scale out horizontally, almost indefinitely and much more simply. We have lots of different webinars on the Container Deployment Foundation. If you're interested in drilling down in that more, we have it even specifically to each suite and what it means for each of our solutions, and happy to share that as well. But from here, I'm going to hand it over to Joe. He's going to kick off the compliance piece of the webinar, actually going into the solution with a demo and looking at how DCA provides compliance across the data center. So over to you, Joe.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, and hey, everybody, good to see. I see a bunch of familiar names and some new ones, so happy to have a good audience on here today. In terms of looking at the data center automation suite, what we want to do is actually go through a demo, and what I've got is a demonstration of using the product. So when you launch into this, we're going to focus on the compliance capabilities that we have. And we start off with a view of the dashboard, right? And the dashboard gives you an overall overview of where you stand on compliance, and you can see your status here in terms of overall compliance status, and you can break that down by individual benchmarks. You see highlights of, significant variances that you have, and we even have trend information in here, although in our demo environment, not a lot of trend data because we just set it up. And so what we'll do is drill down into an individual requirement here and one of the variances and look at one of the actual resources that's affected. This is a Linux server that's affected. And you'll see about this, you'll see an overview of where it's standing, what variances it has at a high level, what the counts are. You'll also see some basic metadata about the device. This happens to be an Enterprise Linux 7 system. You can see attached resources, so there's some database resources attached. And job history, and there's even some compliance exceptions on this device that have been defined. And so let's drill down onto how we can see the detail there, right? And so we can see here, I'm just looking at the things that are not compliant, but still within service level objective. I could filter that to show the exceptions that I had on the device. we have, you can actually drill down into the individual variances there and see what the details of that variance are, right? So from this benchmark, it's got a number of specific requirements, and we'll just pick one. And you can see here that, that this gives you a detail that you should have the specific file systems mounted with the no SUID option. And so this can give you very fine-grained data, but it ties it all up, as you can see, all the way back to the dashboard there. So in just a few clicks, we were able to get to all of the details there. Now from there, I could scan, or I could actually directly remediate compliance. I'm going to run a scan job, and we'll see that start up here. And while that's running, we'll go in and look at the structure of what's in a policy, right? So, so we go look at the policies that we have. You see, we've got a number of standard policies here, and a policy contains a few things, right? So a policy has a service level objective. This is how you tell whether your data is fresh enough and whether you're actually remediating your variances within prescribed timelines according to your business. And then you're going to see a number of benchmarks that are associated to this. Now, CIS, the Center for Internet Security, they break out their benchmarks by platform. So what we've done is created one policy that references all the individual benchmarks, and that way we can release each benchmark as an individual entity that corresponds to that data, right? And then you can see here we have, you could have included patch bundles, we have non-compliance actions. What do we do if something is not compliant? Here we're actually taking no direct action. We could say remediate in the next maintenance window, or even remediate immediately. If this was something very critical that we wanted to, we could actually have the system automatically remediate it. For what we're doing for the demo, we're going to start with the safe case, which is just, hey, if it's broken, send me an email, and I'll go click the remediate button, right? And then we can look at, as we said, this references a number of benchmarks, and the benchmarks are these industry standard documents here. So this is a specific requirement for a specific platform, and you can drill into it. There's requirements and sub-requirements, and eventually those break down to individual rules. And you'll see for a rule, you have an evaluation script and a remediation script that are associated to it, and you have some parameters for those. So in this case, we're trying to make sure that the service is either not installed or it is disabled if the service is installed on the device, right? And if it is, and if it's installed and enabled, then our remediation is to turn it off, right? And we can even look down in the detail of what the implementation here is. So this control, which is an object that applies to multiple platforms, allows you to check whether that service is installed and running. And you can look at the individual evaluation script or remediation script for it here. And, you can see exactly what the system is doing to determine, am I meeting this control objective of validating that that service is turned off. So a very common configuration requirement that you have there. And so benchmarks and controls, you have a huge inventory. There's about 2,500, I believe, controls or individual rules that we have in our inventory. So you can see a number of specific controls. Depending on the platform, you may have them 2 or 3 controls for minimum password, for instance. Or you can create your own, and you have the same capability. You can create evaluation controls or evaluation or remediation controls. You would just, literally add your own script in there for what you wanted to evaluate, and then you can set what the scope of that is. So what platforms do I want that apply to? In this case, the control is a software control. I would say, this can apply to Oracle database or DB2 or whatever, or I can set it to an OS control and it would apply to multiple operating systems. So I could say all Linux, or I could even subset that down and say, only apply this to specific flavors of Linux, only the RHEL instances, for instance. Right? So I can define controls that are the appropriate scope for what it's doing and what works for my business. Controls roll up into the benchmarks. And really that gives us the ability to go out and determine what the state is. So then we take that associated to the policy with the SLO, and we go and attach those to resource groups. So I can look at a resource group here. The resource group has obviously aggregated information. I can see a huge number of variances here because I have multiple resources. And I can see what I'm actually attached to. This actually inherits devices from other resource groups. It has policy subscriptions, and it has exceptions defined at the resource group level. Right, so I can define an exception in here. And you can see when you define those exceptions, you have a time period associated to them, an approver, and a set of specific rules and targets, right? And so this allows you to manage all those little things that can't quite match up to the pattern, but you can track what that is, and it allows you to conform with your objectives. So, you know, looking at all of that information there, right, you can see that actually goes down to the individual resources that are attached. And we can go back and look at the resource that we originally start with here. We're going to go back and look at the jobs, and we can actually see the specific scan data for the most recent run, which is right here. And you're going to see all of the variances. The job ran successfully, but we still have a bunch of things that are out of compliance because we didn't change them yet. But it's going to give you all the detail there. So the same thing you were seeing before, right? And that's, you know, basically it, right? So to kind of summarize, we've gone through there and we set a, you know, maintenance windows associated to our systems. We assigned those to resource groups. We attached a policy to it. That policy referenced specific benchmarks. And the benchmarks had all the individual controls. And this really gives us all of the, you know, necessary objects that we need to enforce compliance and to drive really advanced remediation capabilities. So the ability to automatically remediate or start workflow to remediate is all built-in capability of the platform, and it's all in one place for all of my resources, whether they're operating system entities or databases or application servers or any kind of software entity that's associated to it. So there you go. In a demo, very quickly in 8 minutes and a few seconds, you got a summary of everything that we do on the compliance side.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So I'm going to just quickly kind of go through what we just looked at in the demo and kind of go through the features that we have on the compliance capability. Again, I know Darren said this at the beginning. If you have questions, please feel free to enter them in the question manager. We're planning on leaving quite a bit of time at the end to ensure we can answer specific back to the demo. So first off, you know, something we're really excited to finally be able to offer is the single platform across the data center from the server-based middle whale container server farms. For those of you that are long-time HPE/Micro Focus customers, you know, this is big, not having to go back and forth between platforms. So something we're really excited about to be able to offer, and it's very attractive. It's very user-friendly, very easy to use. Very excited about that. As Joe touched on, we started releasing these dashboard, or integrating these dashboards in our releases in about August, I believe. And what they really do is provide an overall view on compliance. So, you know, Central IT has a really good view across the entire infrastructure. But then as Joe showed, you can actually click on them and drill down into the individual resources or benchmarks that you're looking at, and get more detailed information depending on what you're looking to do. If you're responsible for that compliance, the compliance of that specific resource, look at how to remediate and actually plan for the future. Look at trends, what policies or benchmarks are failing consistently, and make plans to remediate quickly or more effectively in the future. From those dashboards, you can actually also get pre-formatted PDF reports, which are awesome for internal or external audit purposes. So like I said, they're kind of pre-formatted based on what the dashboards are showing, but you can obviously tailor them to what you need. If you have specific internal requirements or requirements for an audit, time frame, etc., you can go in and tailor them and actually get them to print out and provide to whoever you need to. Joe also touched on this, and this is something that we've prided ourselves on with the Legacy Point products, is the out-of-the-box compliance content that we offer in DCA and SA. They provide compliant templates so that when you're deploying your resources, they're already in the desired state. There's no need to go and tie individual policies and benchmarks. The templates are pre-configured to be compliant to these types of regulations and security policies like PCI, CIS, etc. They also include remediation actions, so no need to create remediation scripts. You assign those all as you're setting up the resource based on the policy and benchmark that you need to meet, and that goes into also service level objectives. So those are tied to the policy and include predefined compliance policies with scheduled maintenance windows. So say Sunday between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. is when this resource can be remediated based on this policy. So it's all tied together in one kind of neat package. There's also the ability to set up exceptions and have an auditable change history. So obviously in any organization, especially the larger it is, there's needs for exception management. There's needs to ensure that specific policies or resources are not remediated the way the rest of the lot. And obviously this can all be recorded and audited for adherence to internal policies. Something we didn't have time to go into today was the chat ops capability. And I kind of touched on this previously, but as we move to this kind of suite strategy, as we call it, new innovations are going to be rolled out on that platform just based on the Container Deployment Foundation and how that allows us to continually upgrade our product. And one of those that actually kind of spans ITOM suites is this chat ops functionality. So if you haven't heard of it, it's basically a collaborative practice that allows people to connect kind of in a more transparent and natural way, so kind of a conversational manner. So there's a Slack channel that can be used to run DCA compliance commands or actually retrieve compliance information on the channel. So we use Whobot Enterprise to ensure that a Slack user has the required permissions to access the information that they're wanting to access or execute the command that they're requesting. And then you can actually invite other team members to participate if necessary in the diagnosis or remediation of the compliance issue that's popping up. So we kind of have an example here on the screen. The team is notified necessary there is an incident. The team collaborates in the actual channel, talking to each other, trying to resolve what the issue is. And then you can actually then check to make sure that the issue is remediated correctly and that the resource, whatever it may be, is now in compliance. So this is really exciting. We'll continue to add functionality that you can do in chat ops to DCA, you know, along with all the other use cases that we showed earlier, compliance really is the first one that we're beefing up. It's pretty exciting for us. So again, just to summarize, compliance is now available via one platform across your data center. So whether you're concerned with just servers, Central IT has a complete view via one technology, and then also other teams that you work with on a daily basis are using similar technology, you know, providing similar audit reporting, backup. Everything is a lot more streamlined, integrated, and easier to, you know, hand off from team to team. Obviously, we have some of the most market-leading out-of-the-box content for regulatory and security benchmarks. You know, we see a lot of our customers having SMEs on things like CIS and PCI, which are a beast, you know, thousands of pages to begin with and constantly changing. So it's really hard for our customers to keep themselves in compliance while also keeping up to date with the things that are changing in the policy. So those are provided out of the box. Really a great time saver and a way to ensure that, you know, whenever you are being audited, you're in compliance. And then another, you know, real key differentiator for us is the auto remediation. I think Joe did a really good job of showing how everything is tied back together and everything is considered based on policy and benchmark and resource so that at all times, you know, for the most part, everything is being remediated as it comes up non-compliant. You know, you're not showing a point in time audit report, not knowing, you know, if what you printed out 6 hours ago is current because of, you know, the state of data centers and how things are constantly moving. You can meet patch windows and, you know, really provide that level of security up to Central IT that things are continually being remediated. And then, again, Joe did a really good job of showing, you know, how everything is considered in the process of setting up these policies. Role-based access control ensures there's no security issues with who's accessing what and remediating or changing policies. You can set up exceptions as necessary to your internal policies. And everything is obviously auditable to see when things were changed and why and by who. And then finally, ChatOps. Again, really excited to be able to offer this kind of cutting-edge technology and make this even more interactive and collaborative. That was really our goal for the DCA suite when we rolled out the suite strategy, is that we know teams still work in silos, but we want to make it more cohesive and collaborative no matter who's actually running, you know, the processes. The technology is similar. You know, things can be handed off without latency and very transparent and visible via one solution. So that's all I have actually for today, or Joe and I have. Like I said, we wanted to, I haven't seen a whole lot of questions come in. We saw a lot more in the August webinar. So I'm hoping you guys do have some more questions. And we also, you know, are looking for, I don't know if we've said this already, we talked about it, but we're looking for what you guys want to see next. You know, is it anything that Joe kind of showed that you want to drill down into, other functionality, things from the cloud space? So please use the question manager to also provide your feedback of what you're learning to SIG. But Darren, if you want to, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah,
you read my mind.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Joe and Megan, for giving us a glimpse there of what's under the hood of Data Center Automation Suite. I wanted to mention there, if any of you want a one-to-one session or a demo, if you want to do a follow-up, please contact Megan or myself, and we will gladly coordinate that for you and your team. I see we have a question there. Do you have SA customers migrated to DCA Suite?
All right, so the DCA Suite is a new capability. So really this compliance capability we just released in August. And so we don't have any customers that are using this full-on production use today yet. But we have a number of customers that are going through the pilot and qualification process to roll this out. You know, as with anything, you know, IT operations teams are generally pretty methodical about transitioning from an old platform to a new platform. So I expect that over the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to have a number of customers that we'll be talking about in specific examples of how they're able to use the new capabilities of the platform, but they're in the process of getting there now.
Great. And then we've got another question there from Chris Howard. You had mentioned that there was information on CDF details for all the suites. Where would we be able to find this? Is that on the portal, Vivint, or any other area for resources?
I was actually typing that one out, but I'll answer verbally. Chris, we did a Bright Talk webinar series back in the April-May timeframe when we launched the CDF. So we did one for each of the suites. So I'm happy to send those. I don't know if we want to just send them out to you can send it to you individually, Chris, but we can definitely send the recordings for each of those.
And there's certainly a good amount of information on this on the Micro Focus software website. Something
Agreed.
that we're continuing to expand. As you know, we've gone through a corporate transition here, and so one of the things we've been doing as we rolled into the new company is to go through and put a lot more information out there. One thing I would also like to note is another new thing in Micro Focus is we've started actually publishing all the documentation publicly, so you can just Google for the documentation on Data Center Automation Suite. And actually what will come up is a link to our DocOps website that'll have all of the docs for the release. So if you want to get details and look at what the system requirements are, all those kind of questions, all of that information is available publicly to all customers and prospects.
Yeah, I'm going to take notes here as well, Joe, just so, like I said, we can send a recap email out just so you guys don't have to go all searching for this individually, that we'll have the links to these, to what I have so far is the DocOps website and the Bright Talk webinar series, as well as, our website as well.
Yeah, and George had another question on, we see DCA being able to use as a security risk register and compliance tracker for risks outside of the data center, for example, a network firewall that has open ports in the public cloud. And so there's kind of two answers to this question. The first of which is there is a similar capability in the Network Operations Management Suite for compliance auditing and scanning. So a lot of the network-specific things you need to do for routers and switches and all of that, we're actually going to be leveraging the same compliance module, the same SLO management, all of those capabilities in the Network Operations Management Suite, but obviously they have content that is specific to that network space. Public cloud infrastructure, this is actually something that's in scope really for both is, we have content in our catalog for virtualization platforms, cloud platforms, container platforms as software entities that are part of your application. So your application may scan multiple ones of these. And it's a really good question, because if you look at what Amazon or Google gives you, they give you something that is, they provide security of the cloud. You're responsible for security in the cloud. In their paradigm is what they call their shared shared risk model or something like that. But this comes up because there's a bunch of things that you have to do in terms of configuring their platform to meet your specific objectives and things that you need to enforce. So there is a benchmark for this that the Center for Internet Security produces that has specific checks that's in our content set.
Great, thank you, Joe. Don't see any other questions coming through. So before we go, I'd like to open up a quick poll there to everyone and ask you what other topics you'd like to maybe see in a future webinar for the Cloud Builders and Data Center Automation Special Interest Group. So if you could please type your suggestions in the Q&A pane, we can take that on board and take it away and prepare the next webinar for you guys. So I'll just give you some time to do that if anyone has any suggestions. And while you're doing that, I would just like to say a huge thank you again to Megan and Joe for today's webinar, and thank you for your time in joining. So we're looking forward to obviously putting another one together and seeing you the same place but next time. So if you just there, we've got some. Thank you very much, George.
And George, we do have I don't know if we've changed the name yet, but we have an ITSMA SIG that we can connect you with as well if you're not already a member, and definitely keep you in the loop. They actually just recorded a Vivit webinar not too long ago, so I'm happy to send over that as well if you're interested. Just shoot me your information and I'll put mine on here. And can I do that? I will just answer this with my email address if you want to send me yours, and I can get you some info.
Great, and if you come up with any suggestions for topics outside of this webinar, please be free to send an email to the SIG leaders, so Megan and myself, and we can gladly incorporate those. Maybe we'll do a number of topics in a webinar and see how that pans out. So thank you all for attending today. Really appreciate your time, and thank you to Joe and Megan for enlightening us on what's under the hood of Data Center Automation Suite.
Thanks all.
Thank you.